Hello everyone, welcome back to my show. I'm sitting in a different chair today. I'm sitting by the sunny window because Socks has got my chair over there and he won't be dislodged. I've written my words for the day. I'm feeling a bit cheerier today, I guess, than yesterday. Yesterday I was doing my accounts, which put me in a gloomy mood about being a writer and the fact that I've, in the last year, the last tax year that I was doing my accounts for, I've written 4 books and 2 plays and made 300 or something YouTube videos and had art stalls at fairs and sold art outside my house and all sorts of things. And it's quite hard to make a living doing this stuff, even doing 4 books a year. Anyway, today is sunny and today is the day I open my next book bag. Now, this project for this year is about tackling my TBR pile. The furthest reaches of the TBR piles have been dispatched to the little library outside, and I've donated, I think, hundreds of books in recent times to just give away to people. And my closer TBR pile, the things that I really do want to read, I've been putting in bags of 6, 1 per month. I realised that I read about 6 books a month on average, and I stack them away in a corner of my study in tote bags. Every tote bag I've got is filled. There's probably 2 years worth of reading all in all. And my idea is that I will pick out from these heaps by my desk the month's reading at the beginning of each month. So here's here's Nelly, the elephant of surprise. This hand-knitted elephant that I got from Whitby a number of years ago, who I love, with his beautifully lined ears. That was actually I think it was a slip of the tongue that made me say elephant of surprise rather than element, but I love it. Anyway, it's buried under scarves and things, this pile of books, and lots of them are in these lovely rainbow tote bags. I want to dig down a bit. There's a Waterstones bag, but I think that was a recent one that I put together, so maybe not. The idea is to have your books renew themselves in your mind, things you forgot you had. This is the elephant of surprise in the whole thing, that when you have just piles of books everywhere and bookshelves of books waiting to be read, you get so used to seeing their spines and their titles, and they kind of weigh on you. And what I do is I start to imagine what the book is going to be like, and sometimes I've dismissed things out of hand simply because I've imagined a Duff version in my head. I've dismissed them, and that's wrong. So hiding them seems to be an interesting way forward. And what I've tried to do as well is mix up the shiny new and the old and tatty, because I've got lots and lots of old and tatty books waiting, and sometimes they wait forever. And that's what I was saying yesterday, that surprising myself with something like V, Alien Swordmaster from 1985, which I would wait a long time, I have waited a long time to read. If I make it part of this rigmarole, I might just read it. And I did, and I loved it. It was crazy. Oh, there's my drawing book. There's my huge drawing book, look. Hidden away under these books. This is a lovely book that Jeremy got me. It's where I started doing abstracts a couple of years ago. That one I use as a screensaver. I had postcards made of that because I was so pleased with that one. Look, there's pages and pages of huge loopy abstracts, which nobody else, well, some people might like, but I just love them for less abstract. There's Socks. For the, just that unfettered way of painting, and painting expressively, that's the term, isn't it? And colours. That was a couple of years ago when the magnolia came out to bloom outside, the stage it's at now outside. You can see magnolia blossoms there, just about. Anyway, books. I think I'm going to open a rainbow bag. These were the first ones I filled, I think. I had a lovely idea. I would just fill about 6, I thought. That'll do. About 6 bags with books. And then, of course, it got more and more because I started doing that lovely thing of shopping my shelves, they call it, don't they? When you go around and shop your own bookshelves as if you're in a bookshop. Right. These look like all old ones. I'm not sure about that. Oh, Song of Achilles. Madeline Miller. I meant to read this a couple of years ago. I've had loads and loads of people recommend it. And this is a nice used second-hand edition. Really battered and loved. I think this came out a while ago, actually, 2011. It's Greece in the golden age of heroes, and it's a bit queer. So that'll do me. So fairly recent. One Summer in Italy by Sue Moorcroft. A kind of summery light romance that looks like it's been left out in the rain. Maybe from a free library or ours. What else? Anne of the Island. Now, is this the third one? The thing about the Montgomery books is they don't give a proper list in order in the Puffin editions. And I don't know why they ever did that. They never did that. I've read the first 2, at least, of these. These books I never read as a kid because they were girls' books, like Little Women, like various other things that I wished I'd read when I was 8, 9 and 10. But in our town, if you walked around with Anne of Green Gables or Little Women, you'd have been beaten up. I watched the TV versions with my mum, and my mum and me have very good memories of watching these serializations on the BBC. And I feel like I've read the books. Then, of course, when I go and read the books, it's a whole new experience, and it's wonderful. And when I read for the first time properly, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, Anne of Green Gables, I couldn't believe how funny it was. I would have loved that as a kid. Her attitude to things, her slight kind of piety and cleverness would have really appealed to me as a kid. I think this is the next one anyway that I'm yet to read. I went out and bought all of them in different editions over the years. So they're all waiting for me, but this is, I hope, book 3. I'm sure somebody will let me know if it's not. Oh, now, The Dead Romantics, Ashley Poston. Another kind of fairly light romance, but one with magical realism and ghosty stuff. Ashley Poston is a writer that I discovered a few years ago who did a series, a trilogy, about a fictional science fiction TV show and its fandom. And she wrote 3 fairy tale inflected romances about fans and cosplayers of this show. And I love them. It's a lovely series. I love the first one especially. I forget what it was called. I don't think it's up on the shelves here. I think it's in my bookcase of favourites next door. But she is somebody I've meant to get back to after that trilogy that came out with a smaller press. Now she's published by HarperCollins, and she's a big name suddenly. And she's writing contemporary romance. So I've waited to read this. I don't know why. I must have bought it a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago. And this month's book bag is making me read it at last. Just looking at the first 4 from this bag, they're pretty summery. That's good. I want sunny books for this time of year. And then a fantasy novel, point fantasy. The Webbed Hand. Truth is Revealed in a Pool of Water by Jenny Jones. Looks like it's been in a pool of water. It's got watermarks on it. I don't know what this is. I must have bought this in a charity shop or something like that a while ago. Probably when I was listening to Cameron Chaney talk about point horror, and I looked into what was coming out through point books in this country in the 90s, and we had every genre. And my sister read some when she was a kid, and I read some of her books. And I remember reading some point fantasy. This is 94. So it's kind of middle grade epic fantasy, which I'm kind of in the mood for. I read the first page of Eragon yesterday, which I never read. Christopher Paolini. Somebody, a friend of ours, donated his copies to the little library, and I hugged out the first one, read the first page, and at some point on the first page, I misread a line that says, the monsters, there's monsters hiding, and it said, the monsters in hiding shivered. And I read it for some reason as the monsters in hiding behind the bushes were dithering about. And I thought that was a brilliant first line, but it's not actually the first line. I invented that. So some middle grade 90s fantasy is very much in order. And I wasn't sure I wanted to launch into Eragon, that whole sequence. A one-off called The Webbed Hand is more my thing just now. And then Jeanette Winterson, one of her recent ones, Fran Kistein. I read the blurb of this at the time, and it sounded like absolute bollocks. I have to admit, I love Jeanette Winterson. I read everything in the 1990s. Her imagination could go anywhere. She could take me with her. As time went on, she became more pompous and thought she was it. That's horrible. I think her snobbery about the arts got in the way a bit. I read her Christmas book last Christmas and really liked it. I really liked the stories where it was more like her. When she started doing genre fiction, you could tell that she thought she was deliberately slumming it, and that kind of annoyed me in a way. It's like literary authors when they decide they're going to do science fiction or horror and feel too good for the genre itself. There's a touch of that kind of literary snobbery about her, which is always a bit annoying. But she leaves huge spaces on the page as well, so that things look like poetry, so that things weigh more. As Anton Maudlin, a professor in the memoir I'm writing currently, when he talks about poets, always says, our words weigh more. And there's a touch of that about Jeanette. So those are my 6 books for April. I don't know if I'm pleased or disappointed or what. I think I'm pleased. I think they're a nice eclectic bunch. There's a kid's book. There's 2 romantic comedies. There's 2 kids' books. There's a middle grade fantasy and a classic. There's contemporary romantasy, queer romantasy, and a kind of literary fiction queer romantasy as well. I want to give that genre to Jeanette Winterson too. She always has written queer romantasy. I think that's what she is, a queer romantic. And they seem summery as well. They seem quite sunny, which is nice, I think. There was lots of ice and snow in what I read last month. Jack Finney's time travel book about New York was filled with snow. It was a beautifully snowy book. Tessa Hadley's Free Love was very wintry as well. And Stuart, A Life Backwards, of course, he lived on the street, so he was always cold. There was a feeling of cold discomfort to that book all the way through. This is much sunnier as a selection. So we'll see how we go. As I say, it's just a guideline. It's just a suggestion. It's a heap of suggestions. That's what the Book Bag book club is. And I might stick with them all. I might read them all, or they might lead on to other books. I might read Anne of the Island and decide I need to read everything else in that series. Who knows? We'll see. They're going down here in my basket. Down there, if you can see. I'm not very good at directing the camera, am I? Anyway, they're down there in the basket. ready for the month's reading, and I'm going to read in the sun for a little while, I think. I will see you again quite soon. I hope everyone's well and enjoying the spring, and remembering to enjoy good stuff that nourishes you, that makes you happy in a world that seems to be going increasingly bonkers by the day. I made a list in 2 columns yesterday about things that I know make me unhappy and things that I know make me happy. So it's just a little checklist to make sure I'm doing the things on the right side of my own personal column, and that I'm not doing things like watching too much news and getting too carried away with the idea that the world is going to hell, and that I'm spending enough time doing things that actually do me some good, like reading in the sun. Okay, goodbye.